Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll take a look at what the vampires from Priest really are. There are creatures that cinema has molded, reinvented, and transformed countless times, but rarely with as much boldness and audacity as in Priest. Also known as The Avenger, that 2011 sci-fi horror film that dared to reimagine the modern vampire from the ground up, completely breaking with tradition. This film didn't settle for the stereotypes of the romantic and seductive vampire, nor for the cliches of the noble cursed soul reciting poetry under the moonlight. No, what Priest presents are creatures that make no apologies for their monstrosity. Vampires with no trace of humanity. There are no capes or Gothic castles here. What you'll find are underground hives infested with savage predators, blind, deformed beasts designed solely to hunt, kill, and multiply. Creatures that don't whisper in the dark. They roar. They don't sip blood with elegance. They tear bodies apart with brutality. And to truly understand what they are, you have to go beyond their grotesque appearance. Because these vampires aren't a stylized reinterpretation of the classic myth. They are the evolutionary product of a war that has lasted for centuries. A war between species. In this dystopian world, vampires aren't the result of a curse or a failed experiment, but a completely different form of life. A species that has always been stronger, faster, and more resilient than humans, and that for a long time kept humanity on the brink of extinction. For centuries, our only advantage was sunlight, a natural resource that forced vampires to take shelter in caves and dark areas. But that thin barrier didn't last forever. Desperate, humanity made an extreme decision. It unleashed a nuclear war in hopes of eradicating the vampires. And while it did manage to reduce their numbers, the cost was immeasurable. The world was devastated. The surface became a dry, deadly wasteland. From those ruins emerged a new authority. The Church, not as a benevolent spiritual institution, but as a totalitarian structure that controlled every aspect of human life. They were the ones who built the last walled cities, and they were also the ones who trained the priests, an elite force of sacred warriors, forged from childhood, physically and mentally modified to combat vampires with superhuman efficiency. For decades, the priests were the last line of defense, the protectors of a civilization on the verge of collapse. But when the war ended and the vampires appeared to have been exterminated, the Church declared their own warriors unnecessary. They were disbanded, cast aside, forgotten. Some lived in anonymity, others continued fighting in silence, ignored by a world that preferred to believe the threat had vanished forever. But the vampires didn't disappear. They merely hid. The hives were never fully destroyed. Some survived, hidden in the radioactive deserts, feeding, multiplying, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. Meanwhile, the Church clung to its dogma. Vampires no longer existed. The danger was contained. The reserves, where the last specimens had been confined, were safe. But it was all a lie. The universe of Priest is built on this false sense of security, on the systematic deception of a humanity that chose to close its eyes, while the enemy evolved in the shadows. And within this setting full of tension, distrust, and ruins, the true protagonists of this story emerge. The vampires. These creatures have nothing human about them. Not in their behavior, not in their biology, not in their appearance. They are monsters in the purest sense. They move on all fours. Their bodies are thin but muscular, adapted for stalking and killing. They have no eyes, suggesting a completely different form of sensory perception. Their skin, pale and smooth, resembles that of an amphibian more than a mammal. Their mouths are enormous, filled with long, curved fangs designed to tear flesh and crush bone. What's most disturbing is their social structure. They behave as part of a hive mind. There's no verbal communication, no clear signs of hierarchy, yet they act with a terrifying synchronized precision. Despite the apparent absence of a queen, at least in the present time of the film, the collective behavior of these creatures suggests a shared intelligence, a network of connected instincts that allows them to hunt in packs with brutal efficiency. Although the film leaves much open to interpretation, it is implied that vampire queens did exist in the past, larger, more intelligent beings capable of giving orders. Their disappearance coincided with the collapse of the major hives, but not with total extinction. The question of how these vampires reproduce remains unanswered. Is it through sexual reproduction with queens? Through some parasitic process? Spontaneous mutation? No one knows, and that makes them even more terrifying. Among the horrors of Priest's world, one figure stands out in particular: Black Hat. The main antagonist, a former warrior priest turned hybrid, a creature with a human soul but a vampiric body, a combination as dangerous as it is powerful. He doesn't just represent a physical threat, but also an ideological one, the living proof that the line between human and monster is not as clear as it seems. The vampires of Priest don't hunt just out of hunger. They hunt because they can, because they are the ultimate predator, and yet their existence was denied, ignored, and eventually silenced by the very institution that once feared them. But like any threat buried too deep, it eventually resurfaces. Here, these creatures have been reinvented as true nightmare beasts. A lethal blend of brute strength, impossible anatomy, and senses beyond anything human. They're not just aggressive monsters. They are biological horror masterpieces, engineered to terrorize, hunt, and dominate without mercy. From the very moment they appear on screen, it becomes clear that these are no ordinary predators. Every one of their movements feels like a declaration of savage power, of evolutionary superiority. What's most shocking isn't just their overwhelming physical strength, but the grotesque, inhuman, and unnatural way they move. Picture this: long, skeletal bodies that are incredibly strong, twisting with impossible elasticity, as if their bones were made of rubber. They bend at angles that would make any human scream in agony. And yet, for them, that contortion is natural, just another tool in their predatory arsenal. They can dodge attacks with a repulsive grace, a fluidity that defies all biomechanical logic. Their movements don't follow the normal rules of physics. They glide like living shadows, leap as if the air itself belongs to them, crossing vast distances in a single motion. They can jump from towers, walls, or tall structures and land without even staggering. In combat, this ability becomes a terrifying spectacle. They are unpredictable, fast, and unstoppable. And they do all of this on 4 legs. They move like prehistoric beasts, as if civilization means nothing to them. They climb vertical walls, ceilings, and rough surfaces as if walking on solid ground. Their claws, long and curved like obsidian blades, dig into anything. Stone, concrete, metal, nothing stops them. These vampires don't hunt from the shadows. They are the shadow, crawling, stalking, and descending upon their prey with ancient hunger. But the physical aspect is only part of the horror. Inside, these creatures are engineered with surgical precision for one purpose: to hunt humans. Their senses are so refined they far surpass any known technology. They can smell a drop of blood from miles away. Their sense of smell is comparable to a shark in a feeding frenzy. And their hearing is so sharp that even the faintest whisper, even a held breath, can alert them to a presence. And that's not all. Many of them possess a hyper-developed echolocation mechanism, similar to that of a bat, but taken to an entirely new level. They emit sonic pulses that bounce off the environment, allowing them to see without eyes. That's why, despite lacking traditional vision, they move with absolute precision in total darkness. Not even silence can guarantee safety. The echoes of your breathing or the beat of your heart can betray you to them. And if that weren't enough, some specimens seem to carry an even greater biological threat. A vampiric virus that doesn't kill its victims. It transforms them. It turns them into something in between. A new link in the evolutionary chain of their species. The familiars, obedient slaves under the mental control of their masters. Slaves that may one day become monsters themselves. Even so, they are not invulnerable. Every predator has its kryptonite, and the vampires of Priest are no exception. Their most lethal weakness is sunlight. The sun burns them alive. Direct exposure to its rays causes an immediate reaction. Their flesh ignites, cracks, and disintegrates within seconds. That's why they dwell in underground hives, hidden deep beneath the earth, or within the darkest ruins, and only emerge at night, when the world becomes theirs once again. The priests, warriors specially trained to fight them, know these weaknesses and have turned them into their greatest advantage. Their sacred weapons, crosses with sharpened edges, blessed swords, silver-edged boomerangs, are designed to exploit the vulnerabilities of these creatures. While conventional firearms are largely ineffective, a well-aimed shot with specialized shotguns or modified bullets can take one of these beasts down. Additionally, certain ultrasonic devices, according to theories within the universe, may disrupt their echolocation and disorient them for a few seconds, a brief window of opportunity to strike. Now then, not all vampires are the same. Within their social structure, there are at least 5 distinct classes, each with unique roles, abilities, and levels of danger. The drones. They form the foundation of the Hive, obedient, hive-minded creatures that function as foot soldiers and workers. They're fast, efficient, and deadly, but they don't make independent decisions. Lacking any individual traits, they are completely subordinate to the collective. Though they may seem simple, they're capable of coordinating complex attacks and adapting to new threats. It's speculated that, over time, some evolve into guardians or even potential queen candidates. The Guardians, organic war tanks. These vampires are massive, with grotesque musculature and strength so overwhelming they can break through walls with a charge. They're not as fast as the drones, but their thicker skin and defensive instincts make them deadly. They guard the most vital areas of the hive. Their echolocation is more precise, and their sense of smell can distinguish individual humans by their body chemistry. Rare, difficult to kill, and nearly impossible to surprise. The queens, the apex of the vampiric ecosystem. Majestic, imposing, and terrifying. Queens don't just command, they create. Their bodies can produce the vampiric pathogen, give birth to new creatures, and maintain psychic control over the hive. Their appearance is almost divine. Membranous wings, bony crests, translucent skin. They are as intelligent as they are cold, and rarely engage in direct combat. They prefer to manipulate from the shadows. If a queen dies, the entire hive descends into chaos. The familiars, half-transformed humans, infected, but not fully converted. They can still speak reason, feel fear, but their bodies have changed. Long nails, thin and pale skin, empty stares. Traitors to their species, convinced that full transformation will make them superior. They serve as messengers, spies, and daytime sentinels. Although physically weak, they are dangerous due to their fanaticism and access to human territory. Black Hat, the ultimate hybrid. A unique case. A priest turned by a queen. Black Hat is the perfect fusion between human and vampire. He retains the intelligence, tactical discipline, and training of a warrior, but now possesses the senses, strength, and regeneration of a monster. He is faster than any other vampire, stronger, more precise. He shares a special bond with the queen and leads the familiars like a dark messiah. His body recovers from fatal wounds. His senses are so sharp he can hear an enemy's heartbeat, and despite all his power, he remains mysteriously loyal to his creator, as if a part of his soul had been sealed forever.